All right, hi first grade. How are you today? It's me, Mrs. McClure. Today we are going to be talking about the setting from a story. And last year in kindergarten, we talked a little bit about setting, but we're going to be learning about how we can identify the setting and going back into the text and looking at the words in the pictures help us describe the setting. So not only are we identifying it, but we're also going to try to describe it, okay? So let's look at what we're talking about today. So the type of story that we're going to read this week is a realistic fiction. Fiction, okay, realistic fiction are stories that are made up, but they can happen in real life. They're realistic. So the word realistic means that it's something that could happen in real life. And fiction, it means that it's made up. Realistic fiction, it's a made up story, but it could happen in real life. Okay? So here it says realistic fiction has a setting. The setting is when and where a story happens. It can be real or it can seem real. So, for example, looking at our picture right here, where do you think the setting is? It's when and where. So, what time of day do you think this is happening? Probably the middle of the day, or it could be the morning, but it's definitely during the day, right? Because there's daylight. So, that's when. And where? Where is the story happening at? Yeah, probably in a neighborhood. I see houses, I see a street, I see all of the elements of a neighborhood. So we could say that the setting is happening during the daytime and it's in a neighborhood. So to be a fluent reader, fluent readers read realistic fiction with prosody. Prosody. Okay, that means that they read aloud with expression. So we're also going to make sure that we're working on that as a goal this week. Okay, let's look at our anchor chart for realistic fiction. Um, so here's another example. The setting is where and when a story takes place. In realistic fiction, the places are real or they seem like they're real. So they could be a real place. So, for example, here's a picture. This is the city of Dallas. Here's a farm. These are places that could be real or seem real. What is this a picture of? A school. The time is real or seems real. So this is a place, this is about the place, and then this is also talking about the time. So the morning time we see during the morning, like during day or during the daylight in the morning or at nighttime. So realistic fiction are made up stories but can be real, or the things that happen in the story can happen in real life. So we're going to read our story of the week this week, and we are going to figure out where the setting is. We're going to describe the setting. We're going to describe, is it happening during the day? Is it happening at nighttime? And where is it happening at? Okay, so as we read, I want you to listen for that. Before we read, let's look at our vocabulary words. We talked about these words earlier this week. So we have sand, block, street, and corner. So keep a lookout for those words during our story today. So our story is, the title is From Everything Goes, Henry on Wheels. And the author is B.B. Bourne. The illustrator, right, the person who does the pictures, is Simone Abbott. So we are going to read the story. So I want you to listen carefully for the setting. We're going to look at the pictures and we're going to try to describe.
From Everything Goes, Henry on Wheels, by B.B. Bourne. Illustrated by Simon Abbott.
All right, here we go.
Henry has a red bike. Henry loves to ride his bike. He can ride up and down.
Good. And it also says Henry can ride by himself. I can ride far, Henry says. I want to take a long ride. So what is Henry doing? He's riding his bike. I wonder where he's going to ride.
You may go, says Henry's mom. You may go around the block. Boring. says Henry.
So Henry's mom says he can go around the block. Remember, we talked about that word block. And what does that mean? Right? It's like the block around your neighborhood.
But I will stay on our block. Henry waves to his mom. Then he rides away.
So where is Henry going
Close
to...
read.
Oops.
Under...
Where is Henry going to ride? What did Mom say he could do? He could ride around the block. So as I'm reading, I'm thinking aloud, and I'm going to take note that Mom says around the block. So if we're talking about where something is happening, we're talking about the setting. So I'm thinking maybe the setting of our story is going to be going around the block in Henry's neighborhood. So I'm just going to write that down and just kind of remember that as we listen.
Henry rides down the street. He rides by a boy on a trike. He rides by a girl skipping rope. Henry rides past a cat. He rides past 2 dogs.
All right, so looking back at this in our picture here, where is he riding? He's riding down the street. So that's also a part of our setting, right? Riding around the block and down the street. Is it daytime or nighttime? It's daytime. I see that there's light. I see kids are playing outside. So keeping note of that.
Henry turns the corner. He sees a line of people. Henry stops to look. Wow, says Henry.
All right, so he turns around the corner. So remember we talked about that word corner, right? The corner of a street where 2 streets can intersect. And it looks like there's something on the corner. So just from looking at this picture, it looks like a hot dog stand is on the corner. So there's a line of people wrapped around the corner. And this must all be in Henry's neighborhood.
Henry rides some more. He sees a man with a shovel. He sees a mixer, too.
Ooh, what's happening here? Maybe some construction in his neighborhood?
Henry stops to watch. The barrel turns. Gravel pours out. Henry waves goodbye. He rides around a corner. Some big kids ride up.
So he's going around another corner. When we talked about the going around a block, right? A block is kind of like a square or a rectangle in a neighborhood of streets.
Nice bike, one kid says. Way to ride, they say. Henry rides down the street. Henry sees kids swinging.
Nice.
Close read.
So is there a park in Henry's neighborhood? Yeah, I see a park. So I see that there is he's driving down the street around his neighborhood. There it's daytime. I also noticed that inside of his neighborhood there are businesses like the hot dog stand and there's a park. All of these things can be part of this setting.
Henry sees kids sliding and playing in the sand. Henry rides past. He waves, but does not stop. Henry hears some noise. He looks up the street. More machines, he says.
Wow.
Henry stops to watch. A bulldozer pushes dirt. A dump truck backs up. A backhoe digs. The dump truck drives away. Wow, says Henry.
Wow.
Henry watches a crane. The crane swings around. Men unhook the load. The dump truck comes back. The backhoe fills it up. What a good day, says Henry.
Wow, Henry got to see a lot of really cool stuff, didn't he? The end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back to our presentation here, and we're going to think about what is the setting of the story. So we're going to fill out the setting chart that I have here. So in this box, we're going to put what the setting looks like. Here we're going to put the title, what the name of the story is. And then here we're going to say what's happening in the story. Is it happening in the past? Is it happening in the present, right now, or in the future? So we have our title, Henry on Wheels. And then we're going to put, is the place real or is it a magical place? Could it be real? Could it happen in real life? And could it be magical? And then we're going to come up with some details from the story that help us know where Henry is. Okay? So let's just think about the setting. Remember, setting is where and when the story happens. It could be a real place in a real time of day. So when we looked back on our story, if you grab your book, you can look back at the pages and we think, from that very first page, I remember, where did my thing go? Here we go. On the very first page, I remember this line right here. But I will stay on our block. And that word block makes me think that Henry is staying in his neighborhood. So I might also know that there are a lot of things in a neighborhood because that's what we've been talking about, right? We see businesses, we see parks, we see homes, we see apartments, all the different things that we see in a neighborhood. And as Henry's riding on his bike, he's seeing all these different things, and the setting can change. But the overarching umbrella of the setting for our story is where the story is happening, and so we can assume that it's happening around Henry's block, right? So the things that he sees in the block, we would draw the pictures here. In my case, I'm just inserting the pictures of the setting. So we have, he's ready to go. First he drives by, right, and he sees the kids outside playing. And then he goes around the corner, right, and we see the hot dog stand. And we also see the park, right? And I didn't get a chance to add the pictures, but he also saw kids in the sandbox. He saw the workers with the dump trucks doing construction work. So those are all the types of things that you can see in your neighborhood. And going around the block is what Henry saw. So for the setting, we can say that the setting for the story is in Henry's neighborhood. And how do we know that? What details help us know that it is in his neighborhood? If I were to go back in the story, and because I don't have enough time, I only get 15 minutes to record these videos. If I were to go back, though, in the story, I would look at this page right here, and it says, I will stay on our block. That word block, since we know what that word means now, that word block tells me that we're staying in his neighborhood, the block where he lives, within where he lives. So that detail, we could write that right here where it says Henry is riding around the block. And all of these things are the things that he sees around the block and throughout the story. So we can add all of these pictures here about the setting, but we can say that the setting is in Henry's neighborhood and around his block. And we would write those details down here. So that is what you're going to do for your assignment today, is you're going to fill in this chart. So in this box, you can draw a picture of what's happened, of where the story is happening. You can add that it's happening during the daytime, and we can say that it's happening in Henry's neighborhood. We also know it's happening in the present time. It didn't happen in the past, and it's not happening in the future. It's happening right now. So we would say present. And then the place. Is it a real place or a magical place? It could be it seems real, right? Because we're reading a realistic fiction piece. So it could be a real place. So I put real. And then down here we will add the details that help us know where the setting is. And you can see, you can use the pictures to help you describe it. And we would use words to describe. He sees children playing. He sees around the corner a hot dog stand, or he sees the park. And those are all the things in his neighborhood. Okay, so that is what you are going to do. Now remember, the